It's Friday, which means it's time for Michael Smerconish, CNN political commentator, host of CNN Smerconish. Michael, welcome. Always wonderful to see you. Happy Friday. Let's start with what we saw there. The News Nation cameras outside that prison, people yelling, "Free Luigi." That makes a real statement.
So on Wednesday, I was in New York City to do my radio program at SiriusXM, and in the 6 a.m. hour, I walked on 54th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue, not because of some morbid curiosity, but because that's where I stay when I'm in New York City. That's my route. And what I found jarring was the lack of any kind of a memorial where this assassination took place. In other words, I'm walking on the sidewalk where 1 week prior, in the exact same hour, the 6 a.m. hour, this healthcare CEO, father of two, was gunned down in cold blood. And there's no remembrance. There's no recollection. There's like nothing. People are just going about their business and leading their lives. And I thought, this is so telling of the reversal of sympathies that I find appalling. And by the way, we can do two things at once. We can mourn the decedent, the man who paid with his life unnecessarily, and we can recognize the errors in our healthcare system and try and work to bring about change. I've never seen, Kasie, in the 3 decades that I've been behind this microphone taking telephone calls from across the country, I've never seen the visceral reaction as I have in this case. My callers appropriately mourn the loss of life and at the same time say, but you know, I've got a relative who can't get coverage, or I've had this issue of my own. We can do both things. I would like to think that change comes from it, but for goodness sakes, can we please be appropriate in how we recall what happened a week ago Wednesday? Because it was god-awful.
Yeah, of course. It was absolutely god-awful. One kind of question I've sort of wrestled with a little bit is whether this may, because it's exposed all this anger, ultimately lead to some change, some political change, because obviously that would suggest that violence in this case affects political change, which is not a place we want to go in American politics. But that said, clearly there are millions of Americans, and honestly, I can't find anybody. I'm pretty sure everybody's sitting at this table. I have my own story about dealing with these healthcare companies, right, and how hard it is.
I think that you've really put your finger on the conundrum for politicians. And that is, how do you take action but not be perceived as responding to the violence and therefore rewarding it? I'm sure you're aware of the fact that there are wanted posters being placed in Midtown Manhattan as we speak that are identifying corporate CEOs and healthcare individuals. I mean, it's horrific, and we don't want to condone and encourage that sort of behavior. So how you strike the balance and say this man's murder was horrible, and we're going to deal with it legally and through the law enforcement system, and at the same time be responsive to the concerns that so many have. There's nothing more important, right? If you don't have your health, what's the old adage? You have nothing if not your health. So I get it. But we've got to be able to do both.
All right. Michael Smerconish for us, sir. Always grateful to have you in the program. See you next Friday. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Our viewers, don't forget, tune in to Smerconish tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on CNN.